Our next guest covered the Pentagon for a large part of her career. Barbara Starr, a former CNN Pentagon correspondent and a senior fellow at the University of Southern California Annenberg School of Communications and Leadership. She joins us from Washington. Barbara, really nice having you on the program. What was your reaction when you first saw or heard of the Atlantic story?
Well, I think like everybody else in Washington, I had to read it twice to make sure it said what I thought it said. Real jaw-dropping, as you guys are saying, is the least of it, because this clearly should not have happened. There are a number of guardrails, and in fact, just in recent days, the U.S. intelligence community has been, and the Pentagon have been warning personnel not to use these types of things like Signal, because even though they're encrypted, these are commercial applications. They are able to be hacked. They are not secure for the top level classified information. And there is an obligation on the part of government officials to protect that information. So there's a long way to go here, Ian, tonight, to figure out how all this happened and why it happened.
So as you point out, these officials in the group chat already violating government policy by discussing war plans on the Signal app. Then they accidentally add a journalist to the chat. So again, put this in perspective for us. How big a breach of national security was this?
Well, I think it's very significant. Not just bad enough that they added a journalist, but we don't know what else has gone on, what else has happened. Have there been other instances of this? It's unlikely this was the first time they all decided to get on Signal together. Was there another time? Is it possible that they have been hacked either by allies, which spy on the U.S., or adversaries, which spy on the U.S.? Has information been compromised? This is something that they are going to have to look into clearly. Unlikely we in the public will get an answer. But I think one of the not so hidden headlines of today's hearing is, okay, the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, was heartily endorsed by President Trump. Not a lot of mention of Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary. And by all accounts, he's the one who put up that very detailed military information about those strikes in Yemen.
Yeah, so, I mean, you lived in a world where you dealt with people all the time who had security clearances of various levels, including the high security, clearance, who were sterile in their use of ways of communicating, secure lines as opposed to their personal phones. What do you think is going on here? Is it people who are sloppy? Is it people who are kind of amateurs when it comes to being at the highest level of government? How would you make sense of what happened here?
Well, I think it's very sloppy, to say the least. The Pentagon, by tradition and practice, is extremely careful on these things. And look, there have been any number of instances of leaks of information, of deliberate espionage, because information seeps out of the national security community. So these things do happen. But this is different. This is a creation of a disaster, if you will, at the highest levels. And until we really hear from Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, I don't think we know what really has gone on here. Yesterday, he was very antagonistic. Once again, he said it's all the news media's fault. Basically, no classified information was shared, he said. That really didn't hold up very much today. What we saw at that hearing was the director of national intelligence and the CIA director basically say, hey, we didn't do anything wrong. Go ask the Pentagon what they did. I think the ball now in Pete Hegseth's court.
Yeah, one last question, though, Barbara, and you covered politics for a long time. You covered the Pentagon for a long time. Maybe it's always been like this, but it seems that right now we're living at a time where there are dueling, separate, polarized narratives. And so, I watched the Atlantic journalist last night on CNN. It seemed so clear that this was a breach, a serious breach. Then I listened to what the president said and what we saw in that hearing today from Republicans, and it seems like it's been overblown. It's not what it's nothing that should lead to firing. So do you think there are going to be any political consequences here?
I think there's a lot of people in Washington who are very doubtful as long as the Republicans control Congress and President Trump doesn't appear right now to be moving towards firing anybody. But, I'm going to reserve judgment on that because President Trump in his first term had no trouble firing people at the highest level that he was displeased with. And what we don't know is the answer to the big question. What has Hegseth told the president? And what does the president right now think about Hegseth's performance as defense secretary? Hegseth going out and just stating message points may be very superficial success, but Trump's no fool with these things. He knows there are much deeper issues, and the question is going to be how much he really wants to go after that.
Really appreciate your thoughtful analysis, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Starr in Washington, D.C.